Please, let's take our seats, get ready to start. Once again, good morning for all of you. I hope that you had a nice and relaxing night after our wonderful dinner yesterday. And I welcome all of you once again at this first event. And this morning, we have a presentation of the UNESCO Global Alliance of Science of Learning for Education. And to introduce our speaker, I'd like to invite Professor Ruben Oliven, board member from the Brazilian Academy of Science. Please, Professor Ruben.
It is my pleasure and honor to present Professor Roberto Lent. He holds a degree in medicine from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, a master's and doctoral degree in biological science, biophysics, also from the same university, and a postdoctoral fellowship at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He was a professor at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro from 1975 to 2018, serving as the director for 2 terms of the Institute of Biomedical Science. And currently he holds the position of emeritus professor. He is currently a researcher at the DOR Institute for Research and Education. He is a member of the Brazilian Academy of Science, and he's a researcher of the Brazilian Science Foundation, CNPq. He's currently the coordinator of the National Science Network for Education, director of the Brazilian Academy of Science, and a member of the steering committee of the UNESCO Global Alliance of Science, Learning for Education. He heads the Neuroplasticity Laboratory at the Institute of Biomedical Sciences and a research group in neurodevelopment and neuroeducation at the Institute DOR. He also works in education and scientific dissemination for adults and children, with book published for both audiences, and he has a weekly column on neuroscience in the newspaper O Globo, which is one of the most important newspapers of Brazil, and his column is widely read. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I thank the invitation of President Helena Nader to include this topic in the meeting. It's not part of the official agenda, but I hope to convince you that maybe it should be a topic in the agenda for the next meeting next year in South Africa. I think nobody will deny that education is a very crucial thing or subject that we should discuss. And the presence of science, the interaction of science with education has to be developed. How do I go forward? Okay, so my problem is, my question is, how can science contribute to education? And I will present you a global initiative. A global initiative by UNESCO that was founded in October 2023, so it's very, very recent, called the Global Alliance on the Science of Learning for Education. Nobody will deny that education has serious deficits in most countries, and we are very, very far from the United Nations SDG 4 in this respect. Just if you take a look at this map, it represents the results of the PISA assessment 2022. You'll see at the left the top countries. They are represented in green, and you can see they are all located in the northern hemisphere except for Australia, while the bottom countries are all in the so-called global south. And on top of that, you may consider and may see that all countries in green were not assessed by the PISA tests. So I have no doubt that if they were, the situation would be even worse in global terms. So education is a very critical problem, social problem in our countries. And what I want to defend here, and it's the purpose of the alliance I am introducing you, is that we need to build a bridge between science and education. And there are many bridges already built between science and other sectors of the society. And I present here the example of health to begin with. If you take the relation between the laboratories, the bench to the bedside on the other side of the bridge. By the way, this is the bridge that connects Rio with the town across the Guanabara Bay, Niterói. So this bridge has as the pillars the stakeholders, scientists, intellectuals, professionals, more close to the laboratories than the politicians, policymakers, citizens, and on the other side, close to the beds at hospitals, etc., all the professionals, including patients and their families. And what do? They generate and diffuse knowledge. They propose and assess policies and apply them on practice. Though this kind of rationale, a bridge between science and society, in this case, a bridge between science and health, is well known. And you just can't remember COVID to be convinced that this is very fruitful and can lead to very impressive results. So the bridge, the health bridge is ready. We know which are the stakeholders. We know to develop policies to implement recommendations from the scientists, etc. So this is something that is dominated. Historically, it comes from after the war in the United States, when President Roosevelt asked Vannevar Bush, his director of the Manhattan Project, the story goes like this. Roosevelt asked Vannevar Bush something like that. We won the war, and now we have to win the diseases. So give me a report about how to do it. And Vannevar Bush wrote a very famous report called Science, the Endless Frontier, that was at the base of the creation of the National Science Foundation in the United States, and kind of triplicated the dimensions of the National Institutes of Health. So the health bridge is ready. Now, the education bridge is still under construction. So we have similar stakeholders, scientists, professionals, etc., on the left side, and teachers, principals, pupils, and parents on the opposite side. So it goes from bench to this classroom. So how could we emulate health to build the bridge between science and education? This is the proposal that is taking volume, that is being increasingly considered. In Brazil, we have a network of scientists. We are already almost 200 scientists that compose the Brazilian network of Science for Education. And now we have this alliance that I will present to you. How could we do it? We could, the first thing to do is to build an ecosystem, a convergent ecosystem that is centered on the education. So we would call for the action the different disciplines. All disciplines that could contribute to education would be welcome to this ecosystem. I just put some of them listed here, but there are many others. And this can be done by different ways. One is a very traditional one, which I call retrospective translational research, and works in education as well as in other health and other subjects. You take the different governments, they think about interventions not necessarily with scientific support. It could be, for instance, a small town in Brazil like Sobral. It's very famous because it's very successful in leveraging education among its students. But if you take Sobral's experience and take it to São Paulo or to Rio, maybe it doesn't work because the realities are very different. So the interventions, like emulating a small town to a big town, has not sufficient scientific support. But these are the main interventions proposed by politicians or policymakers. The proposed intervention then is transformed in a law or in a regulation. It's applied in the school system, as you can see at the right. And then after some time, it's analyzed by assessments. And we have, in Brazil at least, we have very professional and very good assessment protocols by economics and social scientists. The problem is that it takes this afterwards that you see in the middle between quotes represents sometimes 10 years. So after this kind of intervention in this retrospective model or retrospective protocol may take 10 years to be evaluated and corrected. And this means high risk of failure, because if it fails, we lost 10 years. So there's another way to do it, and this is the prospective way of doing translational research in education. In this case, the governments ask science first. So they consult science. All these disciplines, or many of these disciplines that I presented to you in a slide before. So the interventions are based on evidence. And then the same strain follows. You know, the government signs a law, the law is applied in the school system, the intervention is assessed, but the afterwards, between quotes, is much shorter than with the previous model, because the initial intervention was based on science. So it represents a lower risk of failure if implemented by the governments. So with this in mind, there was a meeting in UNESCO in Paris in October 2023 to create a global alliance. It's called that way, Global Alliance on the Science of Learning for Education. It's kind of a difficult to keep in mind name, but it has the principles that I presented to you before very quickly, because I have only 15 minutes in total. Which are the objectives of this global alliance? First of all, networking, international cooperation mainly are the key words. Second, translation. So how could we applicate or apply the findings from scientific studies on educational realities? Third, synthesis. So the Alliance intends to develop consensus and generate peer-review harmonization and synthesis of scientific knowledge. And this can be done both to the scientific public, but also to the lay public in, of course, accessible words. Fourth, systems thinking. System thinking, interdisciplinary approaches, and innovation in education policies and practices. This is the fourth objective. The fifth objective is evidence-based strategies, as I was telling you before. So we aim at the Alliance to collect evidence in, for instance, in literacy or numeracy. There are many techniques that have been tested by science for both things. How to include in the classroom children with deficits or with some kinds of difficulties in reading and many other things. And finally, research. So to strengthen the capacity, especially in the global south, for research and action to address the crises and challenges, etc. So these are the main objectives of the Global Alliance. And it is very simple, has a very simple structure. We formed a steering committee. I myself is one of the members of the steering committees. There are others from other countries. UNESCO is the secretariat of this steering committee and of the Alliance in general. And we are now recruiting members. And you can see here emphasized in red the possibility that the academies of sciences become members, institutional members of this alliance. And this will be very, very important because it will bring science, the most important scientific institutions in the world, to contribute to this global efforts in benefit of education. So this is all that I have to show to you, and I hope the bridge is built, and we now have a communication between Rio de Janeiro and Niterói using this bridge. Thank you for your attention, and that's all I needed to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Roberto Lentz. At this moment, we'll have the greetings from Japan, Science Council of Japan, and South Korea, Korean Academy of Science and Technology.
Distinguished President of the S20 Academies and distinguished participants. Thank you for inviting me to speak at the S20 Inception meeting. I am Mitsuishi Mamoru, President of Science Council of Japan. I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the chair, Professor Helena Nader, President of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, on the success of this Science 20 Inception meeting in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The S20 is one of the most important policy advisory frameworks. We, Science Council of Japan, deeply appreciate excellent leadership of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences under the theme of Science for Global Transformation. Now, the G20 framework has become increasingly important in an evolving and complex international situation. Given this, our mission to provide scientific advice to the G20 leaders is of greater significance in today's world. The theme of the G20 Brazil Summit is building a just world and a sustainable world. For our statement to contribute to this goal, I believe it is essential we S20 member academies mobilize a full range of interdisciplinary scientific knowledge and present our joint statement as one voice. I mean the voice of science. The 5 challenges the Brazilian Academy of Sciences have chosen: AI, bioeconomy, energy transition, health, and social justice are all crucial challenges, not only for the G20 countries, but for the entire planet. I would like to express my sincere admiration and support for the effort of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences is paying. I'm sorry I cannot be there today, but together, we as a member of S20, Science Council of Japan, will do our utmost to collaborate with you all and strive to make our planet even better, backed by the power of science. I wish this important Inception meeting success from Tokyo, Japan. Thank you very much.
Greetings, dear distinguished participants. I'm Uk Jun-yu, President of the Korean Academy of Science and Technology. I would like to express my gratitude to the Brazilian Academy of Sciences for the hosting the Science 20. I would also like to thank them for giving me a chance to present myself in this video, as I could not attend in person. I believe that the motto, Science for Global Transformation, and the 5 task forces, artificial intelligence, bioeconomy, energy transition process, health challenges, and social justice are very timely issues. We all together may create many ideas and voices. This will be a great chance for academic representatives, including Korean experts, to share their interesting insights and visions. I hope to virtually connect with you and also to meet you in person at the July meeting. Wishing you all a wonderful Inception meeting. Thank you.
As Professor Helena Nader mentioned in her speech, for the first time in S20, we have the international scientific organizations being invited. So at this moment, I would like to give the floor to these international observers. So I invite President Margaret Hamburg from Inter-Academy Partnerships for her consideration.
Thank you so very much. I'm delighted to be with you at this important meeting of the S20 and honored to have the opportunity to contribute a few reflections on this meeting's important focus, Science for Global Transformation, as part of Brazil's G20 presidency and the upcoming G20 meetings. Unfortunately, I was unable to be with you yesterday because of the vagaries of modern airline travel. We need to transform that as well, I think. I was stuck in the Houston airport for 10 hours, but I did feel this meeting was so important that I wanted to continue on my way to be with you today and to really participate in what is a foundational meeting for future work. I'm here, as was mentioned, as the co-president of the Inter-Academy Partnership, the IAP, which is a consortium of some 150 academies of science, engineering, and medicine from around the world that work together, often through its 4 regional networks, to seek evidence-based solutions to some of the world's most challenging problems and to offer independent expert advice on scientific, technological, and health issues. IAP Secretariat offices are hosted by the U.S. National Academy of Sciences in Washington, D.C., and the World Academy of Sciences in Trieste, Italy. IAP offers a platform that allows member academies to collaborate across disciplines, sectors, and borders to bring scientific insight to national, regional, and global policy debates. IAP's programs and projects reflect 3 key strategic goals. 1, providing high-quality scientific advice. 2, capacity building to strengthen and empower academies, regional networks, and academies, networks, as well as national members. And 3, promoting science education and outreach. Examples of relevant science policy topics that IAP has engaged on in recent years include, but are not limited to, climate change, food and energy security, AI applications and governance, a range of health topics, and issues of research integrity and evaluation. I think we can all agree on the important and unique role of academies in providing timely, impartial, and credible advice to governments, other organizations, and the public. We must, together, strengthen and extend our important voices. And there can be no doubt that the mission and work of the IAP aligns directly with that of the S20. This is an urgent and highly appropriate moment for the academies of the G20 countries to come together, working to formulate and advance solutions for common problems. If the precept of the Brazilian presidency for the G20 is building a just world and a sustainable planet, then the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, and our gracious host for this meeting, is certainly correct in formulating the S20 contribution in terms of science for global transformation. Today, perhaps more than ever, science undergirds almost every aspect of our daily lives, and it's a crucial aspect of foreign policy and international relations, including progress towards attainment of sustainable development goals. So many of the greatest challenges before us, from climate change and environmental degradation to pandemics, renewable energy, food and water security, health, poverty reduction, and emerging technologies require solutions that must harness science and technology. But if we're to meaningfully and sustainably apply science-based solutions, this can only be accomplished through work at the interface of science, diplomacy, and politics. And this is why this meeting and the ongoing work of the S20 is so crucial, as it builds a vital bridge to deliberations and ultimate impact of the G20. So a few thoughts on how together we might deliver maximal impact. Without a doubt, the 5 thematic themes selected by the Brazilian Academy of Sciences are important and timely. You've heard them repeated: artificial intelligence, bioeconomy, energy transition, health challenges, and social justice. These challenges are huge and full of complexities, but of course, they are not completely novel. Most of these areas can and should build on work done in preparation for earlier G20 discussions or other recent meetings and activities. And let me just be clear on this. This is a strength. We do not want to be forever reinventing the wheel or feeling that each new iteration of the S20 must start from scratch. In order to maximize the opportunity to make a difference and put in place programs and policies that last, we need to systematically build on efforts that have come before, while we also seek to identify new or emerging issues, concerns, and opportunities. We must also recognize that we are facing these challenges in a rather more complex and fast-changing social, political, and scientific landscape. And what do I mean by that? For one thing, within the scientific enterprise itself, new discoveries and technology-driven trends are disrupting norms in major ways. In many domains, from AI to synthetic biology to new energy strategies, the pace of discovery is extraordinary, offering huge promise and possibilities. But they're also raising difficult questions about ethics and equity, job dislocations and the future of the workforce, about applications for good and the risks for harm. As we seek to harness science for global transformation, we must have the foresight to plan for and avoid, or at least minimize, potentially harmful unintended consequences. It's encouraging to see such concerns clearly reflected in the work of the various task forces and the preliminary S20 document. We also face growing nationalism in many places, even when the problems before us demand global, collective solutions. Science has never limited itself to national borders, and we certainly cannot afford to do so now. So while the scientific community may face disturbing pressures, we must work together through this S20 effort and beyond to resist and reverse them. We also must work together to reverse the distrust of science, which has plagued so many of our nations and others around the world. An increased scrutiny, sometimes disdain of science and science advice emerged prior to the COVID pandemic, but this evolving anti-science phenomenon was certainly worsened during that difficult period, and much uncertainty and anxiety remains about how science-based challenges are being addressed and the role of science-based decision-making at all levels of government and elsewhere. Frankly, as we gather here in Brazil, it's heartening to see how this nation has been able to move forward following a darker, politically driven period of seeming marginalization of scientific data and expertise and advice. We must applaud our Brazilian colleagues for powering through this and take this model as encouragement to redouble our efforts in our home countries and elsewhere around the globe. I would also point all of you to a recent IAP-ISC joint statement on threats to the autonomy of academies of science as mechanisms for science advice. There is still much work to be done, and this is no time for complacency. Finally, we must remember that words and good ideas are not enough. We must act. A powerful document is being put together to inform the G20 deliberations. Everyone here has the opportunity to contribute to its content and recommendations. But we must additionally commit to making sure that this will be a living document, and we will continue to advance the ideas and actions it puts forward beyond simply the meeting rooms of the G20. The work you're doing here is vital. It will make a difference in many ways. Science-based organizations and activities such as this S20 play an invaluable role in providing the best possible evidence-based scientific advice for policymakers. But we also must recognize that enacted policies will ultimately be determined by the policymakers and the elected politicians themselves. Their decisions will include not just scientific advice, but also evidence concerning other economic, social, legal, security, and political impacts. And I was heartened to hear that yesterday's meeting really discussed this critical recognition and understanding. So as we move forward, we must remain mindful of this broader context. In addition, we must ensure that our advice and recommendations are delivered clearly, succinctly, and in readily understandable form. Explicit identification of the critical needs and actions to be taken is essential, along with why they matter. And we must deliver our advice in ways that will enable questions, feedback, and ongoing interaction. IAP certainly stands ready to assist in this process because virtually all the S20 academies are IAP members and part of our larger global network of academies. We can serve as an important platform for dissemination, ongoing communication, and future-related research and policy activities. Though I missed much of the richness of this meeting and your discussions yesterday due to my delayed arrival, I'm grateful to be here with you during this important meeting to strengthen the cooperation between our organizations and work together in the cause of science for global transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Hamburg. We appreciate your efforts to be here today with us. Now I'd like to give the floor to the Chief Executive Officer of the International Science Council, Dr. Salvatore Arrigo.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'd like to recognize the leadership of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences through its president, Dr. Helena Nader. She is a member of the governing council of the International Science Council, of the governing board, and we work closely with her on advancing science globally. So thank you very much for the invitation and for this opportunity. I'd like to take the opportunity to comment on the thoughts on the table at this very important meeting of the S20 and specifically on the preliminary document. And starting with artificial intelligence, I'd like to share with you what the International Science Council is doing, perhaps starting with the large language models and recalling to all of us that large language models operate in the current information environment for which we have no quality assurance and quality control. And that means that possibly the first step is really to work on the information and the data that populate the current information environment. And through two of its affiliated bodies, CoData and the World Data System, the ISC is working on the application and the expansion of the FAIR approach to data to artificial intelligence, starting with large language models. But of course, when it comes to artificial intelligence, it's much more than large language models. And the ISC has developed this report, which is about, which presents the various dimensions of artificial intelligence that could be checked against a number of criteria that really go from the ethical dimensions of artificial intelligence all the way to aspects related to geostrategic and geopolitical considerations, the economic context, but also more technical considerations in terms of, for example, the utilization of artificial intelligence in models. And that checklist of the various dimensions of any endeavor related to artificial intelligence is positioned in the current debate between a certain level of panic around artificial intelligence and the rush towards heavy regulations. Just a couple of days ago, the International Development Research Center in Canada and the ISC entered into a 3-year partnership on artificial intelligence in the Global South. We launched a big project and very much look forward to working with the S20 on its development and implementation and to make the findings of that project available to the S20. But as it has been said, it's not only about artificial intelligence, it's about adaptive regulation of other issues, including quantum and synthetic biology, which are unfolding before our eyes as we speak. Still on artificial intelligence, the benefits for society can only be achieved through a compromised approach between regulation and public acceptance. And the preliminary report refers, and very importantly so, to the question of trust and mistrust in knowledge and science in the current environment. And this is also relevant, referred to in the poverty section. And in that respect, the ISC, International Science Council, has entered into an endeavor involving the Office for Communications of the United Nations, of the Office of the Secretary General of the United Nations, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, precisely on trust in science, not only from the point of view of why science is not trusted or there is a certain level of mistrust, but mostly more from the point of view of the science of trust. What are the cognitive processes that intervene when it comes to trusting or mistrusting the information that is made available in the public information space, including the findings of scientific research. And it's only so that public policies can be developed, including on artificial intelligence, in a way that those policies encounter the necessary level of trust among the public. And those discussions are of relevance to the debate which is currently promoted by the UN on the regulation of artificial intelligence and other emerging technology. And the ISC works closely with the Office of the Special Envoy for Technology of the Secretary General of the United Nations. On bioeconomy, I will not dwell on that. I will just refer to the fact that there is a need to flip the science model. Not to flip science, but to flip the way in which science is conducted, especially when it comes to co-designing the research agenda, not just by active scientists, but also in collaboration with other stakeholders. And it's only so that solutions can be found at the nexus of issues such as water security, food security, and energy. It's only so that science in action can succeed by producing scientific knowledge which is precisely actionable and reflecting the aspirations and the expectations of multiple stakeholders that would, in the end, agree to work around common objectives. And this is the main recommendation of corroborated by a number of steps presented by the ISC in a recent report called Flipping the Science Model, which has taken quite a bit of time to produce, and which we are happy to share. On health challenges, there were many references to the COVID situation, and rightly so. And the ISC followed up on reports which were looking into the strictly scientific and technical dimensions of COVID through a report jointly with the World Health Organization on injustice and inequalities, the inequality dimension of COVID. And we are now embarking into a similar report on mental health, together with the Secretary General of the World Health Organization. Then my last comments relate to social justice and the fact that poverty, inequality is obviously dealt with within the social sciences community in particular, but in a way which is highly fragmented. And with all due respect for experts in the area, in a way which sometimes is overly simplistic, because it is driven by considerations that tend to stay too much on the neoclassical economics side of the equation. And there is one sentence in the preliminary report which the ISC, which myself and also the president of the ISC found illuminating, that is, it says, by demystifying the illusion that people are naturally born different and is destined to be noble or commoners due to their family origin, the modern world legitimized the ideal of equality. So how do you transform that kind of advocacy statement into a question or a set of questions for social sciences and for the multiple disciplines that contribute to research in the area of inequalities? And for that reason, the ISC has decided to create a working group precisely on the question of poverty and inequality. We have been working in that area through a program called the Global Research and Inequality Program for the past 20 plus years. But now we are going to scale up those efforts. In conclusion, Mr. President and distinguished delegates, the International Science Council, with its 250 members, made of the academies of natural and social sciences in more than 140 countries, more than 40 international disciplinary unions, around 20 academies of young scientists, very much look forward to contributing in a bottom-up way to the work of the S20 at this session and beyond. I also wanted to say we work very closely, hand in hand, with the Inter-Academy Partnership and other organizations federating the active scientific community. We very much wish this meeting and also the follow-up meeting in July utmost success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this moment, I would like to invite Professor Luiz Davidovich, our past president of the Brazilian Academy of Science, but at this moment, representing the World Academy of Science.
Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be here to see many colleagues from the Brazilian Academy of Sciences and also from other academies around the world. Professor Qureisha Abdul Karim could not come, so she asked me to represent TWAS for two reasons. One, because I was Secretary General of TWAS. The second one, maybe the most important one, is that I live in Rio de Janeiro, so it's easier to represent TWAS in this way. Now, so on the other hand, Professor Abdul Karim sent a video. She's going to mention questions that are important for this S20 meeting. I would just like to remind you that TWAS represents a long name. It's the World Academy of Sciences for the advancement of science in developing countries. And this name is actually very interesting, very important, because it is very much related to the vision of the founders of TWAS. TWAS was founded in 1983 in Trieste, Italy, by a group of very good scientists led by Abdul Salam, Nobel laureate in physics. And since the beginning, the vision was of science for sustainable development, notably in low and middle income countries. So that's the mission of TWAS. TWAS has now about more than 1,400 members, mainly from the South, especially from low and middle income countries, but TWAS also has members from the North. Around 10% of the members are from the North. And the programs of TWAS are very interesting, very important for reducing the inequalities between North and South. So TWAS has now about 60 programs, more than 600 opportunities and awards offered, and PhD fellowships, about 100, from 100 to 160 fellowships a year, which are hosted in countries like Brazil, China, India, Pakistan, and South Africa. So it's really lots of work devoted to reducing the inequality between countries, and with special focus on these low and middle income countries, as was the wish of the founders. I would like now to pass the word to Professor Quraish Abdul Karim, the president of TWAS. And I should say that since I'm representing TWAS here, TWAS is really very much honored to be part of this meeting, and TWAS really wishes to contribute more and more to S20 with its knowledge about less developed countries and its work for reducing inequalities. TWAS has special committees on gender, climate change, preparation for pandemics, and you see from the title of these committees that they are very much related to the worries of S20 and the program of S20. So thank you very much, and now let's listen to the words of our president, Quraish Abdul Karim. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends, and colleagues. Greetings from Durban, South Africa. I'm Quraish Abdul Karim, President of the World Academy of Sciences. And it's a real honor and privilege to send this message to you at the opening and kickstart of planning for the S20 meeting. TWAS is really very honored to be part of the planning and to participate in this important event. This 2024 meeting will be taking place at an unprecedented time in modern history. It is at a confluence of complex challenges, amongst others, climate change, involuntary displacement of large numbers of our populations due to wars, conflicts, and natural disasters. Inequalities between those who have and those who don't have been widening, as we've seen by the slowing down in progress in the Sustainable Development Goals. We have seen the importance of science growing within this dismal context and landscape. We've seen it most acutely during the COVID-19 pandemic, where in less than a year, we had 6 efficacious vaccines that shifted us from despair, from anxiety, fear, and uncertainty to a time of hope. But we also saw how differences between countries enabled not everyone to access these life-saving medication. It's something that has sown distrust and increased and widened gaps between scientists and society, between governments and society. And I think COVID-19 also reminded us, in an era where we will see many epidemics and pandemics, that these are more than infectious diseases, pathogens. This is about lives and livelihoods. In what may sound and feel like a desolate landscape, there is hope. There is hope with the digital platforms. There is hope with generative AI, machine learning, and LLMs. But if we are to use these opportunities that these platforms provide to leapfrog us and accelerate our attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, we do have to commit to some very basic things like equal access and equity in terms of connectivity, in terms of portability of data, and in terms of our ability and capacity to utilize these tools to benefit all of society. TWAS is 40 years old, and it was set up with the vision of the use of science and technology and innovation for sustainable development. It preceded the SDGs by over 25 years. And that goal and vision has not changed. Our over 1,400 fellows who represent eminent scientists, largely from low middle income countries, are an important brains trust, a collective brains trust that offer mentorship, guidance, knowledge to be shared for everyone to benefit from. We see as we think about the future that young people are important. In fact, in Africa alone, young people comprise 65% of the population. The average age is about 35 years in Africa. And this is about the future. And TWAS recognizes that the opportunity as we develop solutions and as we think and invest in the future cannot be done without young people at the table with us. And for that, I want to flag and highlight the important role played by the TWAS young affiliates, and particularly Tian, in terms of transforming pedagogy by participating with us and setting the agenda. We also know that at this point in time, if ever there was a time where we did not have the luxury of excluding half the population in our deliberations, and in partnership with Oates, we are very actively trying to bridge the gender inequality and equity gaps, and look forward to how these discussions, deliberations, and opportunities we are creating for women to be equal participants in key decision-making continues to grow. As we set out to define the agenda for later this year for the summit, we hope that we all remember that we are one people on one earth, and that to ensure a legacy for the future, we all need to work together. And on the brink of an existential crisis, we cannot afford to be fighting with each other, but that we should be working together to find solutions to these many complex challenges, some of which I've highlighted. And TWAS is here committed to work together with the organizing committee, with the Brazilian Academy of Science, and with everyone else to make sure we put a strong agenda forward that ensures we meet the needs of today and tomorrow. Thank you so much for this opportunity to address you at this opening session.
At this moment, I would like to give the voice to President Ahmet Nuri Yurdusev on behalf of the Association of Academies and Societies of Sciences in Asia.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Brazilian Academy of Sciences for including ASA, Associations of Academies and Societies of Sciences in Asia, in this meeting. And also, I would like to thank my colleagues for their hospitality Associations of academies and societies of sciences in Asia, founded in 2012 with the merger of two previous science organizations in Asia. One was Associations of Asian Science Academies, which was founded in 2000, and the other one was Federation of Asian Societies of Sciences and Academies, which was founded in 1984. These two organizations, with the support of IAP, merged in 2012, and ASA was officially launched. ASA is an affiliated network of IAP for Asia. IAP has 4 affiliated networks, and ASA is one of them. And we have 33 member academies and societies from 30 countries, not only in Asia, but also Oceania as well. Actually, the name of ASA recently changed to Associations of Academies and Societies of Sciences in Asia and Oceania, because we have Australian Academy of Science and Royal Society of New Zealand as members of ASA. And ASA, of course, promotes science in society, and also it functions as a platform for our academies and society at large. 8 of the member academies of ASA come from S20 group. And when I look at our studies, our works since 2012, ASA covered those teams identified by Brazilian Academy as task force, especially bioeconomy, energy transition, health challenges, and social justice. Here, I would like to dwell on social scientists based upon our inner discussions within the executive board, and also perhaps because myself being a social scientist, I shall dwell on the issue of social justice. And I shall suggest some concrete measures to ensure justice. Classical definition of justice tell us that a just society is a society where everyone gets what he or she deserves. Of course, what everyone deserves decided by a variety of criteria, most notably by labor, by their effort, and by inheritance, and some other legal mechanisms. What you get by drug trafficking, of course, is not part of justice. This definition does not include equality. So justice does not include, in this definition, some degree of equality. Everyone gets what he deserves. And this was a debate in the literature. And in 1971, with the publication of the late eminent philosopher, John Rawls, the American philosopher, whom known to be most influential American philosopher, one of the most influential American philosophers in the 20th century. In his book, A Theory of Justice, John Rawls successfully argued that justice requires some degree of equality among members of society. And what he said, justice requires the payment or encouragement of the least disadvantaged segments of society. So nowadays, in the doctrine, justice no longer disassociated from equality. Our host, Brazilian Academy of Science, in their preliminary document, identified three strategies or three actions to assure social justice: promoting inclusion, ending poverty, and reducing inequalities. Indeed, with discriminatory policies, justice by definition, if everyone gets what he or she deserves, it has to be inclusive. By definition, it is inclusive. And with the addition of minimum degree of equality to the conception of justice after roles, justice then requires reduction of inequalities, and also inclusion requires ending poverty, because if, let's say, majority of the society is in poverty, you cannot speak of inclusion. You cannot speak of, let's say, everyone gets what he deserves. Now, in terms of inclusion, humanity, especially in modern society, has gone a long way. Nowadays, we have inclusive policies regarding, let's say, ethnic communities, regarding religious communities, regarding gender identities, etc. So it's a commonplace thing to say that irrespective of ethnic, religious, linguistic, gender identities. So we've gone enough in terms of inclusion. Yet, still, we need to do more, because this is discourse. In practice, we see that inclusion was not always observed. And one particular group of people I would like to single out is refugees and migrants. Indeed, refugees and migrants, or together displaced people, they have been the subject of injustices, grave injustices, throughout history and nowadays as well. According to United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, last year in 2023, the number of displaced persons worldwide exceeded 110 million, including, of course, registered refugees. Again, according to UN, of these people, only 24% hosted by high-income countries. The remaining 76% hosted by low and middle-income countries. Turkey, my country, is one of them. And according to UN data, since 2015, Turkey is the largest refugee hosting country. Indeed, in 2016, together with Turkish Academy of Science, we had an international symposium and later published it about migrants and refugees. And the eminent speakers, eminent experts concluded that, in one word, the refugees and migrants, they are not a global problem. They could be a problem for various reasons, because of xenophobia, hate crime, social unrest, etc. But there is a positive side to it. They could be an asset for humanity, for global society. So my concrete suggestion for the community or for this group is that, in terms of promoting inclusion, we should refer to inclusion regarding refugees and migrants. In terms of ending poverty, economists, sociologists, they discuss and they come up with various measures how to eradicate poverty. Now, I'm not going to discuss all of them here. But one sentence in our preliminary document tells us all actually. It is not the problem of the scarcity of resources that we have poverty. It is a problem of allocation. So what I suggest, given the level of AI technologies and given the level of robotic technology, we will have in the future more and more people might be losing their job. So it is now time to introduce basic income. In some countries, it is half introduced. In some countries, it is in different ways introduced. But I think we could suggest the introduction of basic income as a measure to eradicate poverty. And finally, reducing inequalities. Again, we could discuss many measures, many policies, how to reduce inequalities. Policies of discrimination is one of them. And also, we could discuss reducing inequalities with regard to different segments of society. In ASA, we particularly developed on gender inequality. And actually, one of our permanent committee is a special committee on women and science, women in science and engineering. And our prestigious award program specifically directed to young women scientists. So what I suggest in terms of reducing inequalities is that we should encourage affirmative and perhaps positive discriminatory policies regarding those segments of society which are in one way or another disadvantages, because our motto, as you know, in this preliminary document and in the 2030 agenda, no one should be left behind. The classical microeconomics tell us that producers and firms want to maximize their production, their profit. Again, consumers want to maximize their utility. This logic, maximization of profit and maximization of utility, does not lead us to a just society. To create a just world and a sustainable planet, what we need to produce not as much as we can. We need to produce as much as we need. And again, we do not need to consume not as much as we can. We need to consume as much as we need. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Professor Beatriz Caputo, Executive Director of the Inter-American Network of Academies of Sciences.
Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation to Yanas to be an international observer of this excellent meeting. And of course, to the people at the ABC. Yanas is an organization that has 22 members that go from Canada down to Argentina and Chile. At this moment, it has two co-chairs, one from Brazil, that is Dr. Elena Nader, that, as you know, could not be with us here today. And the other is Dr. Karen Stryer from the National Academy of Science of the USA, that couldn't join us either. So in a minute, I will give the floor to Karen that has sent in a video. But first, I would like to thank the people at the ABC because Yana Secretariat is at Cordoba, Argentina, at the National Academy of Sciences, of which I'm the president. And well, we have very, very much support from the ABC, from the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, to do much of the activities that we have because, well, our country is passing through a difficult moment now. So I would publicly like to express my gratitude both to Marco Cortesao and Victor and all the people at ABC that are really helping us get Yanas along. Yanas has 22 countries or scientific societies members of it. And we traditionally had 4 programs, a program in energy, a program in water, a program in science for education, and another in women for science. So you see many of the topics have traditionally been the topics discussed and considered by Yanas, but also last year, a new initiative that will be transversal to the previous programs, in addition to the initiative per se, is on the Amazon. So we're expecting very exciting times, discussing topics, many of which have been put on the table here: degradation, ecology, remediation, etc. So I will now give the floor to Karen Stryer, and thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, I'm Karen Stryer, and I'm delighted to be here virtually to represent the Inter-American Network of Academies of Sciences. I'm here virtually, but I hope to be with you all at the summit meeting in July. I'm here in my capacity as co-chair, along with Helena Nader, who, as you all know, is the president of the Brazilian Academy of Sciences and also the host of this historic S20 meeting. Now, you may not have heard of IANAS, but we are a network of 23 member academies. We were created in 2004 to strengthen the scientific communities in the hemisphere and to provide an independent source of advice about policy to governments on key scientific, technological, and health challenges. We are one of the regional networks of the Inter-Academy Partnership, IAP, and we are the only network to represent the National Science Academies of the Americas. We're really pleased to be here, and we look forward to ways that we can continue to collaborate and work with the S20, partly because many of our programs overlap with and contribute to priorities of S20s. We have established programs already in water, women for science, energy, and science education. We've published some recent reports. These are available on our website. One was in collaboration with the African Regional Network on water scarcity, another about water and health in the Americas, and a third about STEM education and public engagement through our education program. Just last year, we started a new program, the Amazon Initiative, Science by and for the Amazon. It's probably fair to say that this is going to continue to grow as the importance of the Amazon to our countries and into the region is increasingly recognized around the world. There is no need for me to repeat all of the superlatives about the Amazon in terms of its vast geographic representation, as well as its political importance because of the 8 countries, as well as the territory of French Guiana that expands. The Amazon is also really well known for its biodiversity, social diversity, its bioeconomy, and its role in climate change. It's probably the case that what happens in the Amazon in the next few years will impact global climate, biodiversity, global economy, and health. These are all areas of importance to the S20 as well. And our Amazon initiative is building on these through collaborations with established organizations like the Science Panel for the Amazon and the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. We don't intend to repeat the excellent scientific work and policy papers that these organizations are producing, but we do see a unique role that we can play in stimulating connectivity and networking across these organizations and between civil society and government policy. We could play a similar role working with the S20 in the Americas as well. Now, at our inaugural meeting of the Amazon Initiative, which we held last August in Manaus, Brazil, at the National Institute for Amazonian Research, we had more than 46 participants from 21 countries, academies, as well as representatives from the top-level Brazilian government ministries and many other international and national NGOs, government representatives, private foundations, and universities. We've begun to outline our regional plans, which will focus on priorities identified by the countries with Amazon biomes in their territories. And many of these priorities synergize with those that are being discussed by the S20. We look forward to joining the S20 initiatives and to using our position as the network of science academies to empower science in the Americas. We can do this by supporting and endorsing the efforts for regional sustainable and equitable development through partnerships among governments and their science academies, engaging and enhancing the network of researchers at all levels from the region, and working with governmental and non-governmental organizations for the effective implementation of policies in science and technology. We are really excited to be here to join with the other regional networks and with the S20 countries. We are very much appreciative of this opportunity to participate, and we hope that there will be more opportunities in the future for us to engage with our particular unique position as a regional network with these shared and collaborative efforts. Thanks so much. Bye.
I now invite President Mahuton Norbert Hankunu, President of the Network of African Science Academies.
Distinguished members of S20, distinguished delegates at this meeting. First of all, allow me to express my sincere gratitude to Brazilian Academy of Science for inviting me at this 2024 edition of the S20 Defined Science for Global Transformation, bringing together so many eminent figures from academies and leading learned societies. I'm honored to be here to represent the network of African Science Academy. I would like to congratulate you on the fullness organization of this high-level event and on the hospitality with which I have been welcomed since my arrival in your beautiful country, which has centuries-old historical ties with my native Benin. Dear S20 members, this is the first time that my institutions has attended your meeting, and I have learned a lot since the opening session. Let me say some words about NASAC. Aware of the need to ensure that the voice of science is heard by a single high-level scientific body, the merit-based national science academies in Africa have decided to create in 2001 the Network of African Science Academies, known under the acronym of NASAC. NASAC is dedicated to enabling in interconnecting African science academies to contribute to science, technology, and innovation, to make the voice of science heard by African and global decision and policy makers, and to establish a culture of science in the continent. As an independent consortium of science academies, NASAC continues to unite and strengthen its membership to address challenges on the African continent using scientific knowledge and innovative expertise. Specifically, NASAC provides advice to regional bodies and organizations on science-related issues of importance to Africa's development through its membership. It also enhances the capacity of academies in Africa to improve their role as independent science advisors to governments and to strengthen their national, regional, and international functions. In turn, these assist the scientific community in the continent to set up national independent academies or association of scientists where such bodies do not exist. NASAC aspires to be an authoritative voice of the science community in Africa. It is therefore only as strong as its members and has remained relevant since its inception by facilitating through financial or technical support the formation of science academies in countries where none exist, offering science academies a platform for interaction and collaboration with their counterparts worldwide. By linking scientists and enhancing the voice in science through their national academies, by strengthening existing academies through provision of capacity, enhancing resources that facilitate their operations, as well as offer training opportunities to their officials and staff members. By championing and facilitating effective networking of science academies, by harnessing their collective strengths and enhancing the impact at national and continental levels. Today, NASAC counts 29 member academies. NASAC is affiliated regional network of IAP for Africa. We have a series of programs, and in connection with its missions, NASA supports on various subjects of key importance to global development on the continent, covering health, climate change, agriculture, food, gender aspect, nutrition, security, state of science in Africa, women in science, etc. NASAC formulated a policy on climate change and its impact on health, and also organized webinars and a series of events on this crucial issue. The aim is protecting human health against climate change in Africa. And NASAC provided a report, Africa Report, supported by IAP. We also organize side events at different COP. Our network fully shares the concerns of this edition of S20 with its own specific features. Climate change, for example, is happening now in Africa. This is substantiated by the occurrence of prolonged severe droughts and desertification, periodic flash or perennial devastating floods, melting of ice caps, sea level rise, and pest invasion. And in addition to these climate hazards, the vulnerability of the African population to climate change is further aggravated by the presence of multiple debilitating factors, including topographic heterogeneity, prevalence of pre-existing climate-sensitive diseases, and the low adaptive capacity of the vulnerable groups who lack reliable economic resource base. To effectively meet the challenges of quality, equity, and access to health for all, NASAC believes it is necessary to recognize the importance of traditional medicines in the One Health project, since the ambition is to take account of the environment and human and animal health, emphasizing their interactions in a globalized world. It seems appropriate to integrate indigenous knowledge linked to plants as well as social practices relating to health, care, and well-being. Building One Health by forgetting indigenous knowledge and traditional health practices will be counterproductive in terms of the objectives of improving global health and achieving universal health coverage. Indeed, a large proportion of the population in the world in general, and in Africa in particular, will continue to use this knowledge, which also constitutes a tangible and intangible heritage likely to constitute an economic resource for developing countries. This knowledge can accompany the deployment and development of a modern medicine, which must remain the priority. In this field, Africa, with its rich diversity and endogenous knowledge, can make a substantial contribution to the One Health agenda or to global health. About artificial intelligence and generated challenges, we agree with the main content of the document and with the constructive comments and contributions made by the participants. However, the dominant underlying transformations of which we are consumers reveal in analysis the intrinsic, historical, sociological, and ethical complexity of artificial intelligence. Today, Africa is far from mastering its contour, nor is it in a position to contribute as much as we might hope. These are many reasons for this, including lack of infrastructures, internet coverage, and the low level of skilled human resources in most countries. About energy transition process and challenges. This is a legitimate concern, given the level of pollution caused by the use of conventional energy sources in highly and medium developed countries, even partly in very low developed countries. But how can we talk about an energy transition in countries where energy is quasi non-existent and has yet to be produced to meet the basic needs of the population? Should we be talking about energy transition without falling into the trap of slogans, or cleaner energy production, avoiding the mistakes made by the biggest polluters? We need to learn from your mistakes, but it seems too early to talk about energy transition in some of these countries. As far as the other points are concerned, we agree with the contributions made by the various participants, with particular emphasis on the training of high-quality human resources, on a holistic, transdisciplinary, and multidisciplinary approach to problems, and on the importance of international collaboration, given that the challenges are global and know no borders. Thank you again for inviting me at this highly instructive meeting.
Thank you, President Hokuno. At this moment, I'd like to open for discussions. As probably at this meeting, at the last opportunity to make some specific comments, some consideration. Before I give you the word, I'd like to ask you to be very objective and concise in your interventions, not using more than 2 or 3 minutes, please, so we can allow different speakers to make their considerations. Please.
I'd like to make, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a point, brief one, on the importance of social sciences and humanity, which has been mentioned by many intervention and also in your document. Now, we are all aware that not all academies have social sciences and humanity within their scope. And so this poses a problem, as we saw, that some academy will not be able to comment on the documents that has that particularity. I don't think this is a big problem. What I would like to suggest, though, as we did in Rome when we organized the S20 in 2021, that the SSH symbol be added in the logo. Now, it's too late to change your beautiful logo, which is so nicely, you know, you have the 20 of the globe. But may I suggest to our South African colleague that next time, you know, you think possible, do you think it's possible to include the symbol of SSH into our organization? And we will do that in our S7 or SSH7 meeting, because it is important that we signal that science is meant to be also applied to the social sciences and humanity. And we've been speaking about social sciences, but also humanity, cultural heritage. There are so many things that are important in that area. So may I suggest that in the next S20, we include SSH in the symbol, not just in wording. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Marcoso. Professor Glaucius Oliva.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. I think we all have deep expectations that the final statement that S20 will produce will have extended impacts. Of course, we hope that the recommendations are considered in the G20 summit by the end of the year. But we also expect that the recommendations may be considered by all G20 countries in the establishment of their national policies. Furthermore, the recommendations are of a broader interest, not only for the G20 countries, but for all the world by the end of the day. So in this sense, we think that the participation of the international observers in S20 will be very important for the dissemination of the recommendations. Therefore, I think we very much welcome the presence and contributions that we've just heard, IAP, ISC, TWAS, AA, SSA, IANAS, and NASAC for your contributions. And we hope that the final statement, the final document of S20 will be disseminated to other academies beyond our G20 members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other comment from the delegates? Professor Boisson, please.
Good morning. Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm here representing the National Academy of Engineering of Brazil. So we do have engineers here. Our chair is an engineer, and hope to participate more in this process to provide recommendations to the G20. I have a question and a comment. The question goes to it's an important topic I'd like to address. It goes to the Canadian delegates. In his speech, he probably was the first to mention open data, open access to data, things of this sort. Of course, open science is very important. I also agree that for research, being able to have open data that people can work together, that you facilitate reproducible results, very important. But there's another area I'd like to elaborate, is that countries have strategic data. And here in our document, we mentioned that countries, if you have to be careful in our recommendations, not to undermine sovereignty and the ability of countries to have a strong, for example, industry in artificial intelligence. So my comment, how broad is your statement related to open data and access to data?
Thank you, Professor Boisson.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you for the question. We also benefit in Canada from an academy of engineers, and hope to be working more closely with them in the years ahead. Our aspiration was and is to see a reinforcement of the importance of, or a further emphasis on the importance of, open science and open data, and without being further prescriptive when it comes to questions of national sovereignty. And I think it would be useful in the medium term, whether next year in South Africa and beyond, for the S20 to maintain this as an area of focus so as to achieve the kind of balance that you indicate is important to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, could you indulge a little bit to give one comment to the...
Excuse me?
I thank him for his answer, and if you allow me, I'd like to make a recommendation on the work. Now it's better. Sorry about that. Regarding AI, I think my opinion, and it's mentioned here in our reference documents, and I quote, by prioritizing ethical principles, promoting inclusive development, and engaging in constructive discussion on AI governance, and that would align human value safeguards against risks and promotes the well-being of individuals and societies. So my recommendation is that referring to AI, the most important topic that could be recommended to G20 is development of a global AI governance statement. With this group could recommend key points that will be part of this governance AI. This is sort of urgent. I'd say you can even recommend the presidents or members of G a deadline, like 2 years or something like that. But that's the most important. We want to guarantee democracy, ethics, and equality to everyone. And until we have these global agreements on how should we develop, it will be very difficult. So that's my recommendation. One of the points, maybe one or two should be from AI. One of them is develop a global AI governance statement that will take into account legal issues and the diplomatic protocols, but we need that.
Thank you very much, Professor Bosson. Professor Watanabe, please, would like to hear your comments.
Okay, I'm Edson Watanabe. I'm a professor of electrical engineering at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. And I got very happy yesterday to hear the representative of the US talking about engineering that will be very important for all these topics, especially energy transition. But I think to meet all those goals in a very short time, we will need to have professionals in all areas guided to be fast in implementing all this stuff. For instance, AI. The computer scientists will need to learn ethics that I think today they are not learning this, or social impact. We have to change, for instance, some habits we have. I'm using today necktie and jacket because I learned that normally when we speak, use a necktie and jacket, you are taken more serious. But this gives us about 3 or 4 degrees more than if we're just with shirt. And what do? We use much more energy. Because of this, is it necessary? So I think there are lots of changes to do in all fields so we can reach 2050 with energy transition and generating less CO2. This morning I had melon, mango, and papaya. Mango comes from about 2,000 kilometers. It comes in a truck fueled by diesel. Melon, it's about 3,000 kilometers. And papaya, it's about, I think, about 2,000 kilometers. We'll have to change all this. Business engineering, changing culture. So graduating new professionals, I think, will be very important for this to have success. Because I hope the impact will be positive, but we have to work in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Watanabe. I'd like to invite Professor Deborah Fogel.
So, good morning, everyone. Thank you, dear Mr. President, for the opportunity to make just a quick comment. I don't know if there is an answer right now for my question, but regarding the health challenge that I contributed a little bit to the writing of this preliminary document. If I understood well, I don't know, again, if you could close this, my observation here is regarding the precision medicine. For me, it was not clear whether we are at the point to include these very frontier techniques regarding the health challenges we have to face right now, since we are 20 different countries in different realities. So I just want us to leave this as an open question regarding whether precision medicine is indeed one challenge that we have. I'm not saying yes or no, just to leaving this as an open thought that we together have to think about if there are other priorities. So we heard so many important things regarding health problems that our countries are facing. So I'm really in doubt about this precision medicine. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vogel. Any other question? Any comments? Any delegate that want to, please?
Good morning. My name is Liz Rejane Sberna. I am a researcher from Brazilian Institute of Information Science and Technology. And I thank the organizers of this event for the opportunity to listen of our community, scientific community. And my question is about, is for the responsible of this meeting. And we already know that energy transition is not moving forward, not for lack of warning from scientific community, but because of the capture of governments by fossil fuel industry lobbies and the capture of the public opinion by disinformation of pseudoscientists and many other sort of agents. So I ask, isn't time to start looking for ways to produce science and also to build bridges with society? Perhaps now is time for more activism from the academy to combat these obstacles.
Thank you very much. Anybody wants to react to those comments? Please.
Well, thank you very much. Well, it's a simple comment just to complete what Professor Watanabe just said. I think that's important for us to be able to access the CO2 footprint of everything that we consume. And then it's really important for us to know the cell phone that we have, how much CO2 footprint has been generated from cradle to grave. And that's a way for us to choose what we consume and then to have a general assessment of the general balance of CO2 and greenhouse gas that are emitted. This is my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have some other questions, but I just want to make sure that our delegates, they can make any additional comment. Maybe this is the last opportunity in this meeting to make some further considerations, please.
I'm Tata Narsingara from India, representing INSA. In the energy transition part of the document, we are talking about renewable energies and hydrogen storage, hydrogen economy. But what is missing is one of the key aspects of that is energy storage, and the battery plays a key role in that. So that part is to be included so that the implementation will become much easier. So battery energy storage is missing, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rao. Any further comments? So I'd like to give the word to Guilherme Rosso from MCTI.
Good morning. I'm in the back. My name is Guilherme Rosso. I'm an observer from the Youth Committee for the next National Brazilian Conference on Science, Technology, and Innovation. Around 50% of the global population is under the age of 30 years old. So as discussions go on until the S20 final meeting in July, I would like to suggest to the Academies of Science to reflect on how all these recommendations will affect youth. Also, I urge you to make more efforts to engage youth in science and technology policy discussions, not only because we have contributions, but also for the need to prepare a generational transition of the leadership for the next 20 or 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comment? Very good. Okay. Then maybe we should have our break, and we come back for the final part of our ceremony. Thank you.
11:30 or
Please.
11:45?
No, we are going to discuss next the next steps.
No, what I mean is that would you like us to come back 11:45 or 11:30, since we have a lot of time?
Marcus, any suggestion that regarding the agenda or?
Maybe we could come back a little earlier,
Yeah,
Prata,
11:30.
so we can finish a little earlier as well, the morning session. So 15 minutes, perhaps it's enough.
So let's make it 11:30.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
with all of you? So we see each other here in half an hour. Okay, thank you very much.
In half an hour, yeah. So there's no point in, hanging out for.
Please take your seats. We are ready to start. Please. At this moment, we are presenting the next steps for us to conclude our final document. We have two challenges, as you know. The first challenge is to have a final S20 document that reflects everything that we have discussed and our positions. But we do have another big challenge. That is, once we have our final documents, is to have part of these documents considered and included in the final document of the G20. So, as we have discussed here, our document should be precise, should be concise, should be short, and should reflect our interests, positions, our demands, and our expectations. So, you made, during this meeting, a very precise points, and on behalf of the Brazilian Academy of Science, on behalf of our president, Professor Helena Nader, I should thank you very much for your feedback, for your points, for your clariness in saying this is good, this is not good, we should improve this, we should consider that other position. So I'm asking you that you should either leave your final comments for this meeting, or you send to us the written version, either in Word or PowerPoint, of the considerations that you have made in this Inception's meeting. Of course, if you want to improve a particular aspect, if you want to change a small thing, you are very welcome to do so. We have recorded your comments, but if we have from you this final version of your positions presented here, would help us in finalizing this first version of our document. A second thing that we are kindly asking you is to indicate the 5 focal experts for each task force. If you think that you should indicate the 5, but we need the names of focal points that we should interact more closely regarding some of the specific 5 task forces that represents the main document. So, if you think that March 29th is okay, we will be expecting to receive by then from yours both the written version of your comments, your remarks, and also the dedication of these 5 people, specialists, 5 experts, that we should move on. And then we are going to work in this preliminary version. So May 24th, we'll have a second version of our document that should already adjust the preliminary document to the considerations that you very kindly have offered us in this Inception meeting, and also during the discussions that we are going to have within the 5 task forces and with the people that you indicated us. So May 24th, we'll have this second version, and we are going to send it to you. And then we hope that by June 14th, we have concluded the final versions. So our summit meeting in July 1st and 2nd here in Rio de Janeiro, in this summit meeting, we will be able to finalize the document. But the version, the final version, you already will have it in June 14th. So if there is additional corrections or improvements that should be made, we will have enough time to make it. And of course, that July 1st and 2nd, there will be space for discussions, conclusions, but we'll be very close to have the final version of our communique. So if you agree with this schedule, we can work according to what we have presented there. Would that satisfy your expectations? Any comments? Of course, those things are not written in stones, and please.
Thank you very much. Just a question on, you say that we should indicate focal experts. So there will be virtual meetings with the focal experts and like 2 or 3, because they would want to know what to expect. So if you could elaborate on that, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, of course, those 5 groups will meet, and online virtual meetings. Yes, thank you, Professor Glaucius. And of course, they will be able to exchange emails, but they'll be responsible to conclude that specific topic. So if they need more discussion or less discussion, this is up to them. But we expect that this second version that will be available will, having included the comments that you made, will be very close to what will be the final version of our document. We'll at least work very hard for that. And thank you very much for your specific comments also.
Sorry,
regarding.
can I add
Please.
something on the same line? I think it would be easier if we just indicate one coordinator of the groups of experts on each side. Because if you're going to have a virtual meeting, you don't want to have 50 people,
No.
join. So may I suggest that, as we did in 2021, that there is one coordinator on each academy side, and then it will be his business to contact all the other experts for that particular document. So I would like to suggest that each academy indicate one coordinator for each document. And of course, this coordinator will be in touch with the expert within their own academies. And
Very good.
they go between, otherwise it will become too messy to organize, all these people online and so forth.
Professor Marcuso, thank you very much for your suggestion. This is a request of our president. So we, at this moment, think that we should keep it this way. If Italy thinks that should indicate a single person, we can do that, no problem. And people are going to meet by the themes, by the specific themes. We are not going to have everybody together. So the people from artificial intelligence, they are going to work in their parts. People from
that, but even for one single document, you have at least 20 experts.
That's
okay?
right.
One, if you double that, means that for each document you have 40 people, and this is not workable. On the basis of our experience, it is much better that there is one that collects and then reports back and so forth. But it's up to you. If you want to handle 40 people, fine.
Okay. Anyway, we'll be looking forward for the indication of Italy. And one point that you remind us with your very, very important comment, that our final document is not a junction of 5 different documents. It's a single document. And of course, we will pay attention to that. And we are not going to have sections in our document. It will be a short document, as we agreed here, maybe 3 or 4 pages. And we'll try to have all the important considerations there. Thank you very much. Please.
I think that maybe there's a kind of a misunderstanding at the moment that is for me. What I got is that the focal experts there are 5 themes, so there are 5 groups of focal experts. But then when it comes to each S20 country, I imagine that we're not supposed to throw all our experts in a so a priori, I guess that each member would refrain from suggesting more than, let's say, 2 experts per member, which is already a lot. So, and maybe only 1. But I mean, I can imagine that in some cases there would be a reason why, there are some topics which are, multidisciplinary, and you may need to have 2 experts because they don't have the same capacity to refine the statements. But at least, of course, I agree with you. It's not a question that one country throws 20 experts online. So maybe it should not be more than 2. It's a suggestion, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Woolman. Each country is going to indicate 5 people, 1 for each. I'm sorry for not being.
Can I intervene?
Please,
here?
Professor
Just
Glauc.
one question. I think his suggestion is reasonable. If any country wants, what we need is names to participate in 5 task forces. If it's the same name from a particular country that will take part on the 5 task forces, that's fine. If, as our French colleague suggests, maybe someone is not so comfortable to talk about social justice, and maybe he would like to invite someone else from his country to be part of that, that's fine as well. So all what we are saying is that we would like to have 5 task forces working in parallel in each one of the documents. And we would love to have contributions from all the 20 countries in each one of those task forces. If these contributions can come through 1 person for all the 5, or 5 persons, or 3 or 4, or 1 would do double, that'll be fine. So it's just that in terms of organization, to have 5 task forces seems to be easier for us. I mean, we felt that in the preparation of the preliminary document, it was difficult to have 1 person or 5 people writing about deeply on the 5 topics. So
thank you, Glaucius. What is missing there is indication of 1 focal expert for each of the 5 task forces. And our expectation is that this single person would represent the whole country. Thank you very much. Please.
Just a comment on the process. May 24th to June 14 is not very much time. We have process at the National Academy of Sciences. It needs a formal endorsement of the board, which only meets infrequently. So we can do this by mail, but that's still a short time with 20 players and some data we have on how long it takes to converge. That's really ambitious. I wonder if possibly that May 24 data could be a little earlier. It just seems very tough to me to imagine getting it all done for so many topics and so many partners.
Thank you. We should consider that our summit meeting is very close. We are talking about 3 months ahead of now. And the first indications from each country we already had in this meeting here, so it was very important, the aspects that were raised. But to have this version 2, of course, all these 5 task forces members, they will have to gather together. And but if you have, I don't think that we can change too much from, because if we push a little bit, or if we put to the early May, maybe April, or I think we should leave, because when we are in May 24th, of course, we have a document that still have 5 parts in it. And from May 24th to June 14th, it's the time that we have to write the final document. So what we can do, if you agree, let's keep this schedule, and if needed, we can, as I said before, those dates are not written in stones, but we work very hard to get that thing done. Marcus is telling me that your suggestion is to move a week ahead. Is that okay?
Yeah, I didn't mean to be radical. Yeah, I think a week would actually help. Seriously.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Please.
sorry to be talking too much, but since I've been involved in all of this recently, I thought I might. Did I understand you correctly when you said that there's going to be only one document that will be signed, or there will 5 documents that each individual will? The reason why I'm asking this is precisely for the point I made earlier on. The Royal Society and the French Academy do not have expertise, or they don't feel they have expertise to sign up documents that pertain to the social science and humanity. So they will not sign a document that has that part, because they will be not participating in any discussion of that. So what we decide to do is to keep in the S7, to solve the problem, is just to have 5 separate documents with an introduction, and the signature of the French will not be on the social part nor of the Royal Society. So I just wonder whether you have taken into consideration this problem. And the second question I have is that what are we going to do in July 1st to July 2nd beside, meeting again and so forth, if the document have already been accepted and signed? I can give you again what we decided to do, because we follow the same procedure for S7, and we decided it was an occasion to present to the wider community what we have achieved, but we will not discuss the documents because they would ideally already been signed up by June. So can you give us an idea what is your sense of what we are going to do on July 1st and 2nd, besides going to the beach, possibly, which would be nice?
Of course. Of course. The first thing is that there is a single communication from S20, a single communication. So there will be only one document, which is the document of the S20 regarding those main aspects. We are talking about science, but regarding about the main aspects. We expect that everyone will be very comfortable with the document. And on July 1st and 2nd, we are going to get the document ready for the summit. But the summit is responsible to accept the document in that final form. And of course, there are space for changes in July 1st and July 2nd, of course.
The document will be signed after July 1st. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Marcos is reminding me here that I should stress that to finalize this document, we are going to work in 5 separate documents, of course, related to each one of the 5 task forces. But at the end, will be part of a single S20 document. Please.
Great, thank you. So 2 points of clarification. One, thank you, Christina, for the point about our expertise, but I think the proposal of having one signature across all 5 won't be an issue for us. So I think we'll be comfortable signing up to that, subject to agreement with the text. I'm just slightly confused now, though, on the process of approval. So when is the summits or the Sherpa meetings that we're hoping to take this text to? Because if we're still talking about it on 1 and 2 July, and then there needs to be a process of academies ratifying internally, that could extend the process, whereas in other summit processes, we've agreed ahead of time, and then the final summit is more about raising awareness of the text and presenting it to political leaders and things like that. So could you clarify those timelines?
Of course. The thing is that the countries have been, the academies have been requesting that we should have the document in its final form, not approved, but in its final form, before the meeting, the final meeting. But of course that the document will be approved there. So in the final meeting, we can make changes, we can make arrangements to approve the final document. The document will not be ready before, but the final version, of course, will be available before the summit. Please.
Yeah, I'm coming back, and I thank Mary Christina for having raised this issue. I mean, I guess that the French Academy of Sciences could sign the final document with the 5 items, provided it would be written somewhere that we have not participated in elaborating, item 2 and 5.
Very good.
Right? It would have to be written, because we cannot put our signature on text on which we have no expertise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please.
I have a question on the work of the experts in the Zoom meetings. Could you clarify a little bit the following? My understanding is that for each of the task forces, there will be a rapporteur from the Brazilian Academy of Sciences. Is this the case? And if it is a case, could you shortly describe the tasks of the rapporteur?
From now on, we are going to improve the preliminary version. And the preliminary version of our document, the one that you had access for this meeting, it has 5 separate sections. And we will start to improve those sections in each of the task forces. So we want to have a single expert from your academy, so we can talk to this person regarding specific aspects of that specific theme, either in artificial intelligence, either health. Please.
Yes, I understand that, but I was asking about the practical issues of the Zoom meetings where the experts are now working, and whether the experts will have as a support a rapporteur for their Zoom meetings.
Yes, yes. Okay. And the Brazilian Academy of Science will be in charge of that, if I understood your question. Yes. Thank you.
I'm sorry to bothering you, but there is still an issue here, very important one. You see, the people who will be coming on July 1st may not have the authority from their academy to say the final word on the document, you know, because the representative may be some staff person that has to have the approval either of the board or the president. So I would consider to be very impractical that on July the 2nd, everybody will be in the, I would not be in the position if I were to come to say, yes, let's change this, let's change that, because I'm not an expert on all these 5 documents. And plus, I don't have the authority to say, yes, my academy has agreed to sign up. So, and this is something we've been going through. So I would like to alert you. I'm sorry to be such of a bother, but I thought that these are issues that are important that you have to take into consideration because, you know, people who attend in this July and to might not have the authority nor the expertise to make the changes that are required.
Thank you, Professor Marcuso. That's why the document, the final version, will be ready beforehand.
Yeah, but
so when you come to the July 1st and 2nd, you already come with the authority of making the comments regarding the final document, as you did today and
no,
yesterday.
But that's different. Sorry, that's different because you asking us to make changes if necessary. So we will not be given a document that is final. And when we meet, then you'll ask us to endorse it. But I don't know if other people agree what I'm saying, but I see it as a critical aspect.
Thank you. Please.
I mean, we endorse that position as well. From our academy's point of view, we find it challenging to have someone with enough authority to make substantive edits to the text. Our preference would be that the text has gone through all of our internal processes to agree, and then the person is arriving at the summit with the authority to sign a statement, but not that there would be further drafting amends on that space.
Thank you, Glaucius. So the suggestion is that, if I understood your position, is that the final approval is beforehand. Yes. That's okay. Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah. So the summit is a final endorsement of the document which will be already approved by the academy. We can accept that. I understand if you agree with that position.
And then can be the occasion to present it to some government official. Then you have the occasion to present it to the press. There's a lot of things that can be done besides going to the beach.
Very good.
On
Very
July, July 1st and 2nd. But it would be clear that it will be endorsed, it will be signed by the time we meet. And so there will be no other challenges or questions or things like that.
Very good. Please, Professor Glaucius Oliva, which is, do you have any further comments regarding that?
It's exactly the meaning of the July meeting. I mean, we want this document to be with strength, and the strength requires, I think, the presence of all of us, our representatives. So in a meeting of 1 day or 1.5 days or whatever, we want to bring the press, we want to bring the G20 representatives to receive the document. We want to make it loud for the general public. And I fully understand, and I think Prata as well, that all the academies require previous approval of the final document. Otherwise, if there were to be changes made here in the 1st and 2nd of July, that would not have the authority from the boards, from the presidents, from the, people that would require that. So I don't think there'll be any changes in the document in the final summit. The summit is a sort of a party moment to make it clear to the outside world the work that has been done by all the teams. And if I can come back to the subject of the documents, the 5 documents. Of course, there are 5 documents. There are 5 task forces. They will be signed separately, but they need to be harmonized in terms of the way they're written, the way they, so that's the idea of having, when we say about a single document, we are talking about having 5 different documents, but written in a harmonic way, in a way that expresses the sort of diplomatic way we want to say things in this document. Is that all right for you? Everybody's comfortable over that? Thank you, Prata.
Thank you, Professor Glaucius, for putting the very nice way. The first thing is that we should agree with the next steps. And I'm happy to see that we now have the agreement of all the parts. Is that correct? Very good. Okay.
Sorry, just a question.
Please. Here come the experience from
experience.
India.
No, indeed. Well, our experience was that this had not converged by the time of summit meeting. Then it took another 2 weeks, for people to come back and do it. There are only 2 ways to do it. Either we have convergence before July 1st, and then we just hit the beaches on 1st and 2nd. By the way, I'm not very comfortable, painting the beautiful beaches of Rio in bad light. I think there are lots of interesting physics going on beaches. And I think we should, in fact, if we were to do a press conference, beach would be a good place because connecting science to society, for example. So it would be a lot more interesting. So anyway, there are only 2 ways you can do it, either give another 2 weeks after July 1st, or to have it all wrapped up before we come here.
Very good. Thank you very much. So we can move forward. And I'm please.
Yeah, just before we move on, the heavy work will be starting from March 29 until June 14. After that, they will be stopping of progressing the document until the signing on the 1st of June, right? This is our understanding of what just...
I'm sorry, I guess I missed your...
Okay. Sorry. I'm saying that the heavy work will start from March 29 until June 14 of the document. After that, we will sit and wait until the summit in the on July the 1st and the 2nd, right? This is what we get from the discussion.
I think you can understand in this manner, yes.
Okay. And regarding May 24 and June 14, is it going to be meeting online or like a documents that will be sent to us?
Sent to you, no meetings.
All right,
We are not talking about meetings. We are talking about deadlines.
the focal experts, are they dates for the meetings or it's going to be online? And
The meetings will be online, no dates yet.
all right, that's great. Thank you.
But I understand that you made some considerations about the meetings, and we are going to follow that.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. So at this moment, I would like to invite our Vice Minister for Science, Technology, and Innovation, Professor Luiz Manuel Rebelo Fernandes. We are very glad to have you here. You can take the floor, and we'll be very glad to hear your closing remarks coming from the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation of Brazil. Please be welcome, Professor Fernandes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. It's 10 past noon, so it's afternoon already. I would like to greet all the representatives of the National Academies of Science that are here meeting to elaborate a very important document. And I would also like to greet the international observers that are here, our colleagues from the Brazilian Academy of Science, and I would like to congratulate the Brazilian Academy of Science for organizing this Inception meeting. The discussions that are being held here are very, very important for us because they point to central challenges in our national and global development policies. They're very important issues. Artificial intelligence, bioeconomy, energy transition, health challenges, and social justice. Our challenge at the G20 meeting is to transform your recommendations into public policy at the national level and into international cooperation initiatives at the global level. So it's a very important document that you are going to produce because these topics are present in the G20 agenda, in different bodies of the G20 agenda, and our commitment is to transform your recommendations into effective public policy initiatives. We have to overcome negationist approaches to these challenges. Our response to these challenges have to be based on science, and that's your role. So the S20 will produce recommendations which will have a very important and central role in our debates at the G20 meetings. So it's a very important document. We held last week our meeting of our National Science and Technology Council, which is chaired by our national president. And the central topic was artificial intelligence. And we received a strong recommendation from our president to produce a policy proposal that he is committed to take to the opening speech at the General Assembly of the United Nations. So we're all in a strong convergence in terms of addressing these topics based on science, but transforming science-based knowledge into public policies that can effectively change the world. I think this is a nice title, Science for Global Transformation. But what transformation? We need to generate, via cooperation in science, technology, and innovation, a just and sustainable world. So I think this is the agenda which the S20 is addressing, at this Inception meeting. And we are looking forward very eagerly to see the recommendations that will be materialized in the final document, which will be brought to us in July. So thank you very much for your cooperation, for your collaboration, and we hope to take forward the spirit of intense international cooperation, which is very evident in your work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Minister. Thank you for coming, and thank you for those words. Now we move to the closing remarks from the Troika. And I would like to invite the past presidency of S20, the Indian National Science Academy, for the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Professor Patra. As we conclude the Inception meeting, I must commend the diligent efforts of the Brazilian Academy in organizing the Science 20 S20 meeting. The meeting, as we know, provided a very rigorous and extensive platform for addressing the most important scientific concerns and societal concerns of our time. The Science for Global Transformation theme, with its 5 sub-themes, reflects the urgency and complexity of the contemporary global polycrisis, and indeed would continue to engage all of us in all foreseeable future. As we investigate the multifaceted challenges, Indian National Science Academy acknowledges the imperative of making priority of critical areas within these sub-themes to ensure effective and meaningful outcomes. We may also prepare an action map of our communique if it was possible. Our deliberations on artificial intelligence underscore the necessity for adaptive regulatory frameworks that are dynamic, light touch, and capable of evolving along AI's rapid development while fostering innovation. We advocate for cautious boundary conditions, multi-factor authentication, and the establishment of agile regulatory bodies to oversee AI innovations, ensuring their safe, equitable, and sustainable applications. We consider bioeconomy the call for a standard definition which aligns with the need for sustainable, low-carbon, and resource-efficient economic models. This transition requires significant R&D in the agri-food system and respect for local knowledge, ensuring that bioeconomy contribute positively to local economies, health, and environmental sustainability. The deliberation on energy transition highlights the role of G20 member states in shaping sustainable energy systems. We should focus on equitable and just energy transition, integrating renewable electricity, hydrogen, biofuels, energy storage, enhanced cooperation, and concerted R&D efforts. Addressing health challenges, we reaffirm the essentiality of universal and holistic health coverage, integrating technological advancements with a deep understanding of social determinants of health. One Health's holistic approach encompassing stakeholders across the spectrum is critical for fostering an integrated, inclusive health system, including well-being and mental health. In addressing social justice issues, science emerges as a fundamental tool in promoting inclusion and diversity, ending poverty and reducing inequalities. Leveraging scientific advancements to bridge socioeconomic gaps underlines the ethical responsibility in scientific progress. The digital transformation, while presenting challenges, offers unprecedented opportunities for advancing social justice, provided it's navigated with a keen awareness of societal implications, the lights and shadows of digital technologies, if you would. The dialogues at S20 Inception Meeting 2024 not only reflect our collective commitment to global scientific advancement, but also underscore our responsibility to ensure that these advancements serve as a catalyst for a more equitable, more sustainable, and inclusive world. We will continue to engage with Brazil and all the G20 members in crafting a strong and meaningful 2024 S20 communique. Thank you very much again for the great meeting and great hospitality. And we all go back with very positive personal and professional experiences here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now I turn to the next presidency of S20, the Academy of Sciences of South Africa.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, over this period of this last 2 days, we have, I think, made progress, particularly in terms, for example, of all the recommendations that are going to be included in this document that we have been working on. And I think one of the observations I would like to make is that our discussions show us that we have not reached all the answers. We have yet more to discuss. And although we will have a final document, and I look forward to its presentation to the G20 for 2024, I think there are one or two observations that we can carry forward as we go. The first one that I wanted to make was I particularly appreciated today the contribution of the international organizations and the comments that were made by what Qureshi Abdul Karim referred to as the brains trust of the academies, the international networks and organizations. And I particularly enjoyed the comments that were made there, and I want to assure those associations that we look forward to including them as we go forward into the next rounds. I think they brought out a number of common focus areas. The second point that I would like to make following from that is that we have heard today and in all of the discussion a number of suggestions that I think we should not lose, and I certainly will take note of in the discussion, the recent discussion we had in the last few hours. So I heard the note about the importance of linking the social sciences and humanities into all of our discussions on science. And I particularly enjoyed the discussion, the point that was made, I think yesterday, about the importance of engineering and social sciences being linked, and the fact that engineering is critical, but engineering is about people, and people are social. So I think the linkage between social sciences and engineering is something that we should certainly be taking forward. We also have had a number of discussions, as we've talked, about artificial intelligence linking also to people and to the other focus areas that have been discussed, and the need for not only global governance and frameworks for how we manage artificial intelligence, but also how we manage the impact of artificial intelligences and technologies on communities and on people. We have also discussed and heard many points made about health challenges, and again, the linkages between health and other aspects that we've been discussing: climate change, geography, governance, energy, and so on. And then I also want to highlight, I think, an important point that was made a little earlier, and also in some of our informal discussions, about the importance of hearing the voice of young scientists, young academies, but all young scientists who have certainly, I think, much to say, much of importance to say, and I think we need to be reflecting on the impact of what we decide on future generations, early career scientists. So I think we have a number of cross-cutting, overarching aspects of what we've discussed in the last 2 days, which will need to be brought together. which really brings me to my own core and my own take on where we are going forward. And that is that it is really important that we unify our focus areas, that the work of our working task teams comes together in an overarching document which is harmonious. And I think that that's still a challenge that we will still need to work on. I think just identifying the overlaps and the commonalities between the different 5 documents, but bringing them together is going to be as important as having clarity of those 5 documents. And then, what are we going to do next after all of that? And I think that that is where South Africa's role, the Academy of Sciences of South Africa, as the representative body taking over the presidency next year, having taken this, what I believe is going to be a very fine document, full of very valuable recommendations, I think our next steps will be about implementation, and perhaps what we need to be talking about next will be how will we implement all of those recommendations as a group of scientists, and of course what recommendations and suggestions we will make to our G20. And that really brings us to how we will need to address the needs as well as the requirements of policymakers and our governments. So that's perhaps going forward with what will we do. We need to make some plans around implementation of all of those recommendations. And then after that, perhaps this will not be our job next year, but perhaps further down the line, the next group who take it over will be to assess the impact of everything that we have done and to demonstrate to our governments and to our stakeholders what has been the impact of all of our discussions. I have no doubt, and I'm completely confident that we will have had impact, positive impact, and that we will have been heard, and that we will certainly have been valuable in terms of advising our national G20 policymakers and governments. So I think we should see that as a very positive incentive to continue to work together, to place emphasis on what we think are the priorities, and to make sure that we are very clear that what we say as suggestions, as recommendations, as observations have weight, and we hope that they will be listened to. We must insist that they are listened to. So the next step, and I have been asked several times, what happens next year? Well, we won't know exactly what happens next year with the S20 until I think we've had our next meeting in July this year. And I look forward very much to that meeting. And after that, we will be able to be more definitive. We don't yet have a final decision from our council and our role players as to exactly when the date will be for the S20 meeting in 2025, nor yet the venue, but they are certainly the things that we will discuss, having heard of all of the discussions here. So we will certainly look forward to welcoming everybody in 2025. And I think we will be open to suggestions as we continue through this year, and certainly when we meet again in July. I would like to just conclude by specifically thanking the Brazil colleagues for the excellent meeting we've had, for the wonderful organization, for looking after us all. For many of us, it was a first time to visit Brazil, to visit Rio de Janeiro. And I think it has been an excellent meeting, well organized, and the discussions have been very valuable. Thank you very much for the organization and for all of your team. It really has gone well, and I would like to thank you for that. I also would like to thank everybody here for the valuable contributions, not only to what we are doing right now, but to all the many suggestions that you have made to me and to my colleague as to what comes next. This is not an end. This is a continuing process. And I think that's part of its value, is that there is continuity. And I think we are very honored to be able to be, in due course, taking over that baton. So in conclusion of what I have to say, and bearing in mind just how much during this meeting we have talked about the impact of man on the world, the various changes, climate change, global change, the need for global transformation. As we part and as we say until we meet again, of course, I wish everybody well and safe travels. And part of an indigenous Indian blessing, walk gently in the world and enjoy its beauty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we are coming to the end of our Inception meeting. And on behalf of the Brazilian Academy of Science, and on behalf of our president, Professor Helena Nader, I would like to thank you very much for coming to this meeting and for putting effort, energy in our discussions. Your comments were very valuable, and I understand that as we move forward, we become more and more strong to make the accomplishment of our final objective not easier, but more convincing for those that rely on science as we do. So I thank you very much for coming to Brazil, and I wish that you have a very nice return back home. I would like to remind you that Brazil is a very large country and a very interesting country, I would say. So if this is a short visit to Brazil, don't hesitate to plan another visit. Brazil is very large. So we have the north, we have the northeast, we have the central part of Brazil. Of course, that Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, Minas Gerais are strong states to be visited. We have the south of Brazil. And Brazil has a very large tradition of welcoming the foreigners that here come. So be very welcome to Brazil. Thank you very much for coming here. At this moment, I would like to acknowledge the effort of the staff of the Brazilian Academy of Science in putting together this meeting and making all the arrangements that were made. We are very pleased. I, together with my colleagues of the board member of the Brazilian Academy of Science, of course that we offer our attitude, our effort, and our energy to help you in building this very nice document that we want to build. In a meeting like this, of course that we regret the absence of our president, Helena Nader. She is a strong leader, a very strong woman. And of course that we'll be working very hard together with Professor Helena Nader to accomplish a document that would reflect all the discussions that we had here. I would like to thank the keynote speakers that brought very interesting themes and perspectives from their point of view to our discussions. A very important part of our meeting was the international observers that would like to also thank. Their visions and their suggestions are well taken, and was very important to have them here. I would like to thank all the members of the Brazilian Academy of Science, all the institutions that were represented in this meeting. Special thanks goes to the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation at this moment, represented by our Vice Minister, Professor Fernandes. Once again, thank you all for coming here. I would like to remember you that we are finishing at 12:36, and we have our lunch time offered by the Brazilian Academy of Science. And then we wish you that you could find time to visit Rio as is proposed that you do. Thank you very much once again.